What if the very thing you think is helping your manifestation is actually the reason nothing's showing up? Right now, as you're listening to this, there's a part of you that knows something isn't quite aligning. You've been doing all the right things, visualizing, affirming, journaling. Yet that dream job, that relationship, that financial breakthrough feels just as distant as when you started. Here's what most people don't realize. There are 5 invisible habits that act like energetic static, scrambling your signal to the universe. These aren't the obvious blocks everyone talks about. These are the subtle ones that slip past your conscious awareness. The ones that feel so natural, so justified, that you might even think they're spiritual practices. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly what these habits are and how they're creating interference in your manifestation field. More importantly, you'll discover the specific recalibrations that can shift everything, sometimes in a matter of days. If you're feeling that familiar tug in your chest, that recognition that this message found you at exactly the right moment, go ahead and subscribe to this channel. The universe has a way of using the content you engage with as a breadcrumb trail, leading you toward the insights that will unlock what's been waiting for you. Now, before we dive into these hidden blocks, I need you to understand something crucial about how manifestation actually works. Most teachings focus on what you should be doing, the techniques, the methods, the practices. But quantum physics tells us something fascinating. The observer changes the observed simply by observing it. In manifestation terms, this means your awareness itself is creative force. This is why these subtle habits are so destructive. They're not just preventing your desires from manifesting. They're actively creating what you don't want. They're misusing your creative power, directing it toward limitation instead of expansion. Let me ask you something that might feel uncomfortable. How often do you check for signs that your manifestation is working? I'm talking about that mental inventory you do. Scanning your bank account, looking for texts from that person, refreshing your email for that job response, analyzing every small event to see if it means something bigger is coming. This checking habit feels so innocent. After all, aren't we supposed to be aware of the signs the universe sends us? Aren't we meant to have faith while also staying alert for movement? Here's what's really happening energetically when you check. You're operating from a frequency of lack that says, I don't have it yet. Every time you look for evidence, you're reinforcing the very reality you're trying to change. You're telling the universe, I'm still in the wanting phase, rather than, I'm receiving what's mine. Think about it this way. When you order something online, you don't frantically refresh the tracking page every 5 minutes wondering if it's real. You place the order, you know it's coming, and you go about your life. The checking energy comes from doubt disguised as diligence. But here's the deeper truth that most people miss. The universe responds not to your words or your visualizations, but to your energetic state. When you're checking, your state is one of separation from your desire. You're literally broadcasting the signal, I am someone who doesn't have this thing yet. There's a specific energetic signature that surrounds people who are in receiving mode, and it's not what you might expect. It's not excitement or anticipation. Those are future-focused emotions. It's not even gratitude for what's coming. That's still acknowledging a gap between now and then. The signature of receiving is present moment fulfillment. It's the energy of someone who knows, without needing proof, that they are already taken care of. It's the frequency of trust that runs so deep, it doesn't need external validation. I once worked with someone who had been trying to manifest a specific income level for 2 years. She was doing everything right: vision boards, affirmations, meditation. But she was also checking her business metrics obsessively, analyzing every client interaction for signs of growth, constantly measuring her progress against her goal. The breakthrough came when she realized that her checking was actually a form of control. She thought she was being responsible and aware, but she was really trying to micromanage the universe. The moment she stopped monitoring and started living as if the outcome was inevitable, her business tripled within 6 months. But stopping the checking isn't just about willpower. It requires a fundamental shift in how you relate to time and outcome. You have to understand that in the quantum field, your desire already exists. The manifestation isn't being created, it's being allowed. Your job isn't to make it happen through vigilant watching. Your job is to align with the frequency of the reality where it already is. If this is resonating with something you've been feeling but couldn't quite name, hitting that subscribe button is your way of saying yes to more insights that will help you recalibrate your manifestation frequency. It's how you signal to the universe that you're ready for the deeper teachings. Now, what I'm about to share might challenge everything you've been taught about gratitude and manifestation. But stay with me, because this distinction will change everything. There's a version of gratitude that actually keeps you stuck in lack, and most people are practicing it without realizing it. It's what I call gap gratitude, being grateful for what you have while energetically emphasizing what you don't have. You know this feeling. You're practicing gratitude for your current job while what you're really doing is managing your disappointment about not having your dream career. You're grateful for your studio apartment while secretly reinforcing that you're not living where you really want to be. This type of gratitude feels virtuous and spiritually correct, but energetically it's still focused on limitation. You're essentially saying, "Thank you for this lesser version of what I really want." The universe receives this as a confirmation that you're someone who settles, someone who accepts less than what they truly desire. Real manifestation gratitude is different. It's appreciation that comes from abundance consciousness, not scarcity management. It's not grateful despite what's missing. It's grateful because you understand that everything in your current reality is perfectly orchestrated to lead you to what's coming. There's also something called future gratitude that most people get wrong. They think it means being grateful for what hasn't happened yet. But that still implies a timeline where you're here and your desire is there. True future gratitude is being grateful from the reality where your desire is already fulfilled, where you're looking back at this current moment as the perfect setup for everything that unfolded. Here's a practice that will shift everything. Instead of being grateful for what you have while wanting something else, be grateful for being someone who lives in a reality where desires manifest naturally. Be grateful for being tuned into the frequency where synchronicities are normal, where opportunities flow easily, where you're always guided to the next right step. This isn't about bypassing genuine appreciation for your current circumstances. It's about elevating your gratitude to match the frequency of your manifestation. When you're grateful from abundance rather than grateful despite lack, you become magnetic to more abundance. But here's where most people get trapped. They turn gratitude into a spiritual performance. They think if they just feel grateful enough, if they just appreciate hard enough, they'll earn their manifestation. This turns gratitude into another form of doing rather than being. Authentic manifestation gratitude isn't something you generate, it's something you receive. It bubbles up naturally when you're aligned with the truth of who you are and what's available to you. It's not effortful or forced. It's the natural byproduct of remembering that you live in a responsive universe that's always working in your favor. This next habit is so subtle that even advanced practitioners fall into it without realizing it. It's what I call identity lag, continuing to operate from an old version of yourself even while trying to manifest from a new one. Every desire you have is essentially a calling toward a new version of yourself. The person who has what you want thinks differently, feels differently, and makes different choices than the person you are now. But here's where most people get stuck. They try to manifest the outcome while staying energetically loyal to their old identity. Let me give you an example. You want to manifest financial abundance, but you still think of yourself as someone who doesn't understand money or someone who isn't good with finances. You're asking the universe to give you something that doesn't match who you believe you are at the deepest level. This creates what I call energetic dissonance. Part of you is reaching toward this new reality, but another part is pulling back toward the familiar identity. The universe doesn't know which signal to respond to, so nothing moves. Or maybe you want to manifest love, but you still carry the identity of someone who's been hurt, someone who can't trust, someone who believes that good men are hard to find, or all the good ones are taken. You're asking to experience love while broadcasting the frequency of someone who expects disappointment. The tricky part is that these old identities feel so true, so justified by your past experience. They don't feel like beliefs, they feel like facts. But here's what you need to understand. Every identity is just a pattern of thoughts and feelings that you've practiced into feeling real. The person who already has what you want doesn't carry the old stories, the old wounds, or the old limitations. They've integrated their past without being defined by it. They operate from worthiness rather than hoping they can earn worthiness. This doesn't mean you bypass your healing or pretend your past didn't happen. It means you stop using your past as evidence for what's possible in your future. You stop introducing yourself to the universe through your limitations and start showing up as the person your desires are calling you to become. There's a specific moment when identity shift happens, and it's not what most people expect. It's not a gradual transition where you slowly feel better about yourself. It's more like a quantum jump where you suddenly realize you've been arguing for limitations that were never actually true. You've been defending a version of yourself that was based on temporary circumstances, not on who you actually are. Here's where things get really counterintuitive. There's a type of action that actually pushes your manifestation away, and it's the kind that most people think they're supposed to take. I'm talking about force-based action, the kind that comes from fear that nothing will happen unless you make it happen. The kind that's driven by the belief that the universe needs your help to figure out the details. The kind that feels like pushing rather than flowing. You know this energy. It's applying to every job you can find because you don't trust that the right opportunity will find you. It's saying yes to dates with people you're not excited about because you're afraid the right person might not show up. It's working harder and longer because you don't believe in the possibility of effortless abundance. This type of action comes from scarcity consciousness. It's based on the belief that there's not enough opportunities, not enough time, not enough good people, not enough money to go around. So you have to grab and scramble and force and control to get your piece. But here's what's really happening energetically. When you take action from fear, you're actually reinforcing the reality of scarcity. You're telling the universe, I live in a world where I have to fight for what I want. And the universe says, okay, I'll keep giving you situations where you have to fight. Inspired action feels completely different. It comes from expansion rather than contraction. It comes from excitement rather than fear. It comes from a sense of moving towards something rather than running away from something else. When you're taking inspired action, it doesn't feel like work in the traditional sense. It feels like play, like curiosity, like following a trail of breadcrumbs that leads to exactly where you need to be. The right action at the right time with the right people. But here's the part that confuses most people. Sometimes inspired action looks like no action at all. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stop trying so hard and create space for the universe to work on your behalf. I had a client who was desperately trying to manifest a relationship. She was on every dating app, going to every social event, saying yes to every introduction. She was exhausted and frustrated because all this action wasn't bringing her what she wanted. The breakthrough came when she realized that her frantic searching was actually broadcasting desperation rather than readiness. The moment she stopped trying so hard and started enjoying her own life, focusing on becoming the person she wanted to attract rather than hunting for someone to complete her, everything shifted. Within weeks, she met her now husband in the most natural, effortless way. This doesn't mean you become passive or that you stop taking any action at all. It means you learn to distinguish between action that comes from trust and action that comes from fear. One moves you closer to your manifestation. The other keeps you trapped in the energy of someone who has to fight for what they want. The final habit might be the most insidious because it masquerades as spiritual wisdom. It's what I call the completion complex, the belief that you have to heal everything, clear everything, and become perfect before you're worthy of your desires. This shows up as constantly working on yourself, always finding new things to fix, heal, or improve, always discovering new blocks, new traumas, new limiting beliefs that need to be cleared before you can have what you want. Don't get me wrong, healing and growth are beautiful parts of the human experience. But when they become a prerequisite for receiving love, abundance, or success, they turn into sophisticated forms of self-rejection. The completion complex tells you that you're not ready yet, that you need to do more inner work, clear more blocks, heal more wounds before you're worthy of your desires. It keeps you in perpetual preparation rather than allowing you to receive what's available to you right now. Here's what you need to understand. The universe doesn't require you to be perfect to give you what you want. It requires you to be willing to receive it. And willingness is available to you in any moment, regardless of how much healing you think you still need to do. Your desires aren't rewards for completing some spiritual curriculum. They're not prizes you earn by becoming good enough. They're expressions of who you already are at the deepest level. They're the universe's way of calling you into fuller expression of your true nature. This doesn't mean you ignore genuine healing or growth opportunities. It means you stop using self-improvement as a way to delay receiving what you want. You stop making your worth contingent on your progress. The most powerful thing you can do is learn to receive from where you are right now. To say yes to love while you're still healing your heart. To say yes to abundance while you're still working through money blocks. to say yes to success while you're still building confidence. When you do this, something magical happens. Your desires become partners in your healing rather than destinations you have to earn. Having what you want actually accelerates your growth because it gives you a stable foundation from which to do your inner work. I want to ask you something, and I really want you to think about this. Which of these 5 habits resonates most strongly with your current experience? Is it the checking and monitoring? The gap gratitude? The identity lag? The force-based action? Or the completion complex? Share in the comments below which one hit closest to home for you, and if you feel called to, tell us about a time when you noticed this pattern in your own manifestation journey. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today to recognize this pattern in their own life. Now that you can see these invisible habits, the question becomes, how do you recalibrate? How do you shift from these blocking patterns into the frequency of receiving? The first thing to understand is that this isn't about perfection. It's about awareness. The moment you can see these patterns, they begin to lose their power over you. Consciousness itself is transformative, but there are specific practices that can accelerate this recalibration, and they're not what most people expect. The first is what I call assumption living. This is where you start making choices from the assumption that your desire is inevitable, rather than trying to make it happen. You don't act like someone trying to manifest money. You act like someone who naturally receives money. You don't act like someone trying to find love. You act like someone who naturally attracts and receives love. This is different from fake it till you make it. You're not pretending or forcing. You're aligning with the energetic truth that in infinite possibilities, there's a reality where you already have what you want, and you're choosing to operate from that frequency. The second practice is energetic boundaries. This means protecting your manifestation frequency from contamination. It means being selective about what conversations you engage in, what content you consume, what energy you allow into your space. If you're manifesting abundance, you stop participating in conversations about how hard it is to make money. If you're manifesting love, you stop engaging with friends who want to commiserate about how terrible dating is. This isn't about being antisocial. It's about being energetically responsible. The third practice is response training. This is where you practice responding to current circumstances from the identity of the person who has what you want, rather than reacting from old patterns. When something doesn't go as planned, instead of falling into "nothing ever works for me" or "I'm never going to get what I want," you respond with, "This is redirecting me towards something better," or "The universe is clearing space for what I've asked for." This isn't positive thinking or bypassing. It's literally training your nervous system to operate from trust rather than fear, from expansion rather than contraction. The fourth practice might surprise you. It's receiving training. Most people are terrible at receiving because they've been taught that it's selfish or that they have to earn everything they get. Start practicing receiving in small ways. When someone compliments you, receive it fully instead of deflecting. When someone offers to help, say yes instead of insisting you can handle it yourself. When opportunities present themselves, say yes instead of analyzing whether you deserve them. Your capacity to receive your big manifestations is directly related to your willingness to receive in everyday moments. The universe is always sending you gifts, but if you're not practiced at receiving them, you'll miss the big ones too. The fifth practice is frequency anchoring. This is where you identify specific physical sensations, thoughts, or feelings that are associated with having your desire fulfilled, and you practice accessing those states independently of external circumstances. Maybe when you imagine having financial freedom, you feel a sense of lightness in your chest and a quiet confidence in your solar plexus. Practice accessing that sensation while you're doing dishes, while you're stuck in traffic, while you're dealing with current financial stress. You're training your system to be familiar with the frequency of your fulfilled desire so that when opportunities align with that frequency, you recognize them and say yes. But here's what I really want you to understand about manifestation. Beyond all the techniques and practices, your desires exist because you exist. They're not random wants or wishes. They're the universe expressing itself through you, calling you toward fuller alignment with who you really are. Every desire you have is already fulfilled in the quantum field of infinite possibilities. Your job isn't to create it, it's to align with it. It's to become a match for the reality where it already exists. This means that your manifestation isn't dependent on your perfect execution of techniques. It's not dependent on your ability to maintain positive thoughts all the time. It's not even dependent on your level of spiritual development. It's dependent on your willingness to release the habits and patterns that are keeping you locked into old realities and your openness to operating from the frequency of new possibilities. The habits we've discussed, the checking, the gap gratitude, the identity lag, the forced action, the completion complex, these aren't character flaws. They're misunderstandings about how manifestation works. They're strategies your ego developed to try to control outcomes, but they're actually preventing the natural flow of receiving. When you release these habits, you don't have to work harder at manifesting. You actually have to work less. You have to allow more. You have to trust more. You have to receive more. This is the paradox of manifestation. The less you try to control it, the more responsive it becomes. The less you need external evidence, the faster evidence shows up. The less you push, the more naturally things flow toward you. So how do you integrate all of this? How do you move from understanding these concepts intellectually to living them as embodied truth? The first step is gentleness with yourself as you notice these old patterns. Remember, awareness is the beginning of transformation, not a reason for self-judgment. Every time you catch yourself checking or practicing gap gratitude or operating from old identity, celebrate the awareness rather than criticizing the pattern. The second step is patience with the recalibration process. These habits didn't develop overnight, and they won't disappear overnight. But they can shift much faster than you might expect when you approach them with consciousness rather than resistance. The third step is trust in your own inner guidance. You have an internal compass that always knows the difference between actions that come from fear and actions that come from love, between thoughts that expand you and thoughts that contract you, between choices that align with your truth and choices that betray it. Start trusting that compass more than external opinions, more than conventional wisdom, more than what you think you should do based on manifestation teachings. The fourth step is experimentation. Try living as if your desires are inevitable and see what happens. Try receiving compliments and opportunities without analyzing whether you deserve them. Try making choices from the assumption that you live in an abundant, responsive universe rather than a scarce, hostile one. Pay attention to how different choices feel in your body, how they affect your energy, how they change the way opportunities and synchronicities show up in your life. The fifth step is community. Surround yourself, as much as possible, with people who operate from abundance consciousness, who believe in possibilities, who support your highest vision for yourself rather than trying to keep you small and safe. This doesn't mean cutting off everyone who's going through difficult times. It means being selective about who you allow to influence your energy and your beliefs about what's possible. What I want to leave you with is this: your desires aren't frivolous wants or selfish wishes. They're the universe's way of calling you into fuller expression of who you really are. They're invitations to expand, to grow, to become more of yourself. When you say yes to your desires, not from desperation or grasping, but from recognition and alignment, you're saying yes to evolution itself. You're saying yes to becoming a fuller expression of consciousness, love, and creativity in physical form. The habits that block manifestation aren't obstacles to overcome. They're outdated strategies to release. They served you once, probably when you were younger and needed to control your environment for safety. But now they're keeping you small, keeping you stuck, keeping you separated from the natural flow of abundance that wants to move through your life. You don't have to fight these habits or force them away. You can simply choose something different. You can choose to operate from trust rather than fear, from abundance rather than scarcity, from worthiness rather than earning, from receiving rather than grasping. Every moment is a new opportunity to choose differently. Every interaction is a chance to practice being the person who naturally receives what they desire. Every circumstance is an invitation to respond from your highest frequency rather than your lowest. Your manifestation isn't happening to you. It's happening through you. You're not a victim waiting for the universe to deliver your dreams. You're a conscious creator, aligning with the realities that already exist in the field of infinite possibilities. The only question is, which reality will you choose to align with today? Which frequency will you broadcast? Which version of yourself will you embody? The universe is listening. It's always listening. And it's ready to respond to whatever signal you're consistently sending. So send the signal of someone who receives easily, naturally, joyfully. Send the signal of someone who trusts that they live in a responsive universe. Send the signal of someone who knows they're worthy of their desires, not because they've earned them, but because they exist. This is your invitation to step into that frequency. This is your call to release what's been keeping you small and align with what wants to emerge through you. The universe has been waiting for you to remember who you really are. It's time to stop blocking your own receiving and start allowing the magic that's been trying to reach you all along. Your desires are calling you home to yourself. Will you answer?